and welcome back to the show. You're listening to CarSmarts Radio. My name is Steve Safier. We're talking with Matt Murray of Iron Trap Garage. You can check out his videos on YouTube by simply searching Iron Trap. He said just Google Iron Trap. He owns the name practically. It's an old term that you won't find in any modern reference other than his garage. So Google Iron Trap Garage. He's got YouTube and Instagram and all the great social media. Very active social media presence. Before we get back with Matt, I want to mention it's the new year and a new season of CarSmarts Radio, and we're looking for some new bumper music. I love what we have, but that's the music you hear when we come out of a commercial break. If you're a local musician with a song about cars or driving, or know of such a musician, send an MP3 file to steve@carsmartsradio.com for consideration. Great opportunity to get your original music heard on the air. Back with Matt. Matt, how do you balance your day job shooting videos, which I know is incredibly time consuming, traveling to swap meets and shows, and then working on cars?
Yeah, whenever I get asked that question, I always joke, and the simple answer is I don't sleep a lot. I make the most out of my day, is the way I put it, and there's you can have a whole separate conversation about time management. I pack as much as I possibly can into the days that I have allocated for doing work. Obviously, you set some time for personal life, family, but other than that, you need to be going hard on everything. So I mean, from the second I wake up, I'm gathering parts that I sold to somebody that I need to ship, and then I have to do the day job thing with Eastwood, and then I get home at say 5 o'clock, 5:30, and then I'll work till I'm doing to work till 1, 2 a.m. on a project, and we're filming these videos. So I pretty much just the nice thing is that everything, my whole life surrounds old cars. So even my day job, surrounds it. So you get in that mode of doing all of that. It's not like I have to be an accountant and come home and working on hot rods, so it makes it nice. So I just kind of, I have certain days of the week, like I joke that the Sundays, we call it Sunday service, is a term that I kind of coined, where it's like our worship of old cars. So that's probably the only day of the week that I leave, like visitors can show up.
That's awesome.
So that's, other than that, I'm pretty much working on stuff anytime I can. And
yeah, Matt was a little reluctant to come on the show on Saturday because it's girlfriend day, right?
Yeah,
it's family time, but you managed to somehow squeeze a date in at the end of the radio show, which it worked out perfect.
Yeah, it's that time management thing. We're gonna go to the city and have dinner and do some other stuff, and it's okay.
Yeah, I'm just thrilled to get an hour of your time, frankly. I know how busy you are. So being in the business. You hear about cars that have been sitting in barns or garages. We talked about the one in Philly, which is an amazing video, as I said, over 1 million views for good reason. Do you rescue cars to work on yourself, or are you passing those on to other people, reselling them, rescuing them and reselling them?
Right. Generally, I'll rescue just about anything if it's a good deal or a good value or a good story. Whether I keep it or not is just a matter on if I have a connection with it. I always say that pretty much every car that you'll ever see me build for keeps, or a car that I build and keep for a long period of time, is something that has a good story on it. So like I mentioned earlier about the Pagoda City Coupe, it had a great story to it, and I had a connection to it and built it. 19 Model T that we turned into a hot rod from basically a pile of parts, and the whole idea was we're going to show how to build a car for next to free and make something that's basically a show car, and that had some history. So it's just the history or connection,
Yeah, I want to talk about that free T, because it's called free T because a lot of stuff came free. It was scrap or something, and you put it together. And somebody did there's a great video of a guy doing hand pinstriping on it and stuff.
Yeah. So the free T, basically, somebody put an ad up on Facebook Marketplace or somewhere for a free Model T touring body. So for anybody that's not familiar, that's a 4-seater car, 3 doors, early model, mid-level or mid-range Model T, 1919, and basically he was giving away the body and he was keeping the chassis for a Race a Gentleman project. I saw the ad, and my best friend Mike that I do the channel with, I basically called him or texted him and said, "Hey, are you free today?" And he was working 3rd shift at the time. I said, "Yeah." I said, "Can you go run and grab this?" So he grabbed the body for free. A friend of mine, an older guy that's a friend of mine that I've learned a lot from, Pete. Pete gave me a set of 46 to 48 Ford frame for free, and I stole some parts out of the frame. I had these 2 frame rails and this body laying on the ground that were free, and you just start looking back and forth at them when you're bored at night, and I go, I could turn that and this, and I got basically, so we showed, the whole idea was to build the car 100% for free by buying and selling and trading. But as the project went on, I flipped the switch and decided to make it like a full-on show car. So basically the car was free up until the point where I paid to have a full like tuck and roll interior done, and I had the engine machine work done. It's a full race flathead in it. So like I have a little bit of money into it, but for what the car is, it's very minimal. But the lettering on the dash was just you know, a guy that I met that through social media became friends with, and he's a tattoo artist and does hand lettering. He said, you know what? We should do the lettering on it for free because it's the free tee. And he and I have traded stuff back and forth, so it works out.
I think this would be good. I was going to save it for later. But I think it's a good segue into your $20 challenge for 2020, because a lot of people think that this hobby is very expensive. Obviously, it entails a lot of chasing, and we're going to talk about the thrill of the chase, obviously, also. But tell us a little bit about the $20 challenge for 2020.
Yeah, so I you know, a lot of this all goes around to me growing up as just a poor kid and not having money, so I had to figure out how to make money to pay rent and also to build cars. So I've pretty much perfected it, and that's how I have all the cool stuff I have, is by trading up or buying up and whatever. So we decided to do a 2020 $20 challenge, and this is kind of just to offset the people on our channel. You know, you get the YouTube negative comments, oh, it'd be nice if I was rich and could afford this, and I'm like, I'm not at all rich by any stretch of the imagination. So we're going to start with 20 bucks, and we're going to basically, through videos, document. Well, Mike and I are going to trade, you know, buy and sell till we can buy something substantial at the end of the year. So one thing I get teased a lot about is I have a pretty crappy old car trailer that is basically free, and I'll milk it until it breaks in half. But so I decided, why not get myself? I've never bought a brand new trailer, so I decided at the end of the year I want to turn this $20 into a brand new car trailer. And Mike has been wanting to start a traditional hot rod project. And he said, why don't I, basically at the end of the year, I'm going to buy a project. And so we're going to just document the process of, you know, I bought this for 20, sold it for 50, took that 50 or 40, you know, and saved 10 and step up. And I think people are going to see pretty quickly how you can go from 20 to 1,000 really fast. And then you can turn that into a lot. So it's that whole, you know, paperclip, you know, the old red paperclip idea, but we're going to show it on the, you know, the antique car level where you can turn it into something really substantial, you know, for yourself.
I think so much of what you do and the visuals of the whole thing, it would be good for television, but you and I talked about it in your garage, the sort of downside of having a television show, because that sounds like a game show right there. Like, how do you keep re-upping the $20 until it turns into something at the end of the year? But you've been approached by television producers because of the space and because of how sort of how articulate you are and knowledgeable you are about these hot rods. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think one good thing about social media and the internet is that it's taken away the barriers. So TV networks don't have the control or power that they used to. So we can reach just as many people through YouTube, and we take out the middleman. So we have full creative control. So if Mike and I decide we want to do a $20 challenge the week before the video goes out, we can do it. We don't have to pass it through a bunch of producers. And you know, the people that we talked to when we did some interviews with some of these production companies, they wanted to mold us into something that we weren't. Hey, can you guys send us a sample video? You guys fighting and throwing wrenches. And I'm a very kind of calm kind of guy, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, that's not me. I don't do. Well, you know, it would be good. The producers would like that. Well, that's not us. I'm not. And I think we want to really show what it takes to build these cars, and I want to educate. I mean, that's what this channel started with, is showing people how to do the metal work, how to find the parts, and that's not necessarily good for mainstream television. So I think with what we're doing, I always joke, if I can make enough money to pay my mortgage and build cars, I'm happy. I don't need to be rich and famous. So that's why I think we've been calm and collective and having, you know, pursued those opportunities.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Steve Magnante. He's been on the show, and years ago he pitched a show, and they said, oh, it's too educational. It's too much teaching. And that's all he wanted to do, is like teach people to go into junkyards. And now he has Junkyard Gold, and they sort of still has eliminated sort of the conflict between two people because it's just him. But I think he eventually got what he wanted. But it's very hard because they want to put you in that sort of formula, that sort of mold of fighting with people in the garage, and like you said, throwing wrenches and stuff like that. And it just doesn't work for you. It's not where it's at right now. What's the most challenging part of building hot rods?
I would probably say, I mean, if you're building cars the way that we build them using old parts, The hardest part is finding the parts, because I'll say it over and over again. You can be the richest guy in the world, and some of these parts are so hard to find, and they're just not for sale. I mean, there's some of the stuff so rare that, you know, when we talked about it, I have parts laying around that the money would be nice, but you know what? The part means more to me, and I won't sell it. So the hardest part is definitely finding the parts, because you need to hunt. I mean, yeah, it actually adds an extra barrier of difficulty, because if money is also a factor, then you need to get it for cheap and find this unobtainable part, which I've done a great job of by doing the legwork and hunting, you know, 24 hours a day.
Right, and the internet obviously plays a role in that. I remember you telling the story where you saw something in the corner of a picture. There was an estate sale. They had some photographs, and none of them really very appealing. But there was something in the corner, and you said, "I'm going to go to that."
Yes.
Everybody else was going to other events, which is really fascinating. They were going to Hershey or wherever else, and you said, "No, you know what? I'm going to take a chance here because I see something in the back of that photograph." So is that one of your tips? And we'll talk about that in more detail later. But is that one of your tips? Is like really look at the photographs?
Yeah, and I think don't be afraid to go against the grain. I mean, that was a good example. There was another auction going that day. There was a drag race that I could have went to race my Model A. There was a ton of fun. I did it before, and honestly, that's what I wanted to be doing.
Right.
That's where most of my friends were at. But it was like, you know what? I think there's something here, and there was that. You know, I joked the Spidey sense. It said, "That's it. There's something going on. There's old race parts, broken race parts in photos," and I decided to go. And yeah, I think that's the thing. Don't be afraid to chase a lead. I mean, that's, you know, for every crazy hit that I get of something rare, there's probably 50 times I went to a place and chased it, and you know, I walked out with nothing, and I bought one part for $5 and wasted a whole day. But that's part of this, is the hunt and the chase.
Right, and that's as fun, you said, as actually doing the build and driving the car is it's the most difficult part, and it's also a rush. You get the adrenaline rush each time.
Yeah, that's definitely, you know, the one of the most fun parts of building cars with the traditional hot rod thing, doing old parts, is every time you find a major piece of your project, it's like it's a small victory, I call it, and it's like you just get this you know, rush that you are finally holding that intake manifold you were looking at in a 50s hot rod magazine. You have it in your hands, and you're putting it on your car. And it's like, that's so cool. So there's so many of those instances that when you buy out of a catalog and buy the stuff and you have it now, you don't get that same feel of chasing a part for months or years and then owning it. And so when you drive the car too, it makes it that much more special, because all this old stuff is working together again.
Yeah, and you get to see some cool old barns too, and talk to guys who have been in the were in it at some point. Well, we got to take another break. When we get back, we'll ask Matt about the right way and the wrong way to build a vintage hot rod or rat rod, and find out a surprising audience that's now seeking these cars out. And what do minivan seats have to do with any of this? We'll find out right after these messages on CarSmarts Radio.